First story. My girlfriend slept with her BFF's boyfriend. When I asked for her to be accountable, she started sleeping with another guy. Now he's out of the picture and I've decided to give her another shot. We were all in our senior year of college, one semester from graduating. Doug had the most amazing girlfriend, Denise. She is sexy, smart, caring, driven, she has it all. We had been together since second semester freshman year. I knew we would get married. I was planning on proposing after graduation. This would not have been a surprise to her as we had conversations about this before. I guess all of the problems began on what was just a normal night. Denise was over at my apartment, my roommate Pete was out, so we had the place to ourselves. We were laying in my bed having a deep conversation about the future when she asked me, "Do you have any college regrets?" I said, "I wish I had a wild phase. I kinda feel like I missed out." She got a bit more alert and sat up to talk to me. We spent a while talking about it, how it would be really hard for me to settle down having only ever been with her. I mean, she hadn't had a wild phase either. I was her second after her long-term HS boyfriend. Anyway, towards the end of the conversation she asked, "Well, if you had a hall pass would you want to use it?" And I said, "Only if it was good for a few specific people." Denise then asked, "Like who?" I said, "Well, number one would definitely be Jessica." For some background, Jessica is Denise's best friend since 6th grade. They did everything together, told each other everything. They decided they had to go to college together. They roomed together and got an apartment together after freshman year. For some reason that night Denise decided to go home to her own apartment. My best guess is she started her period and didn't want to tell me. Well, when she got there Jessica was home and Josh, Jessica's boyfriend, was not over. We were all in the same friends group, and I had hung out with Josh plenty before. He was probably my second best friend in college after my roommate Pete. Denise told Jessica all about our conversation, and what she thought about what I said. Jessica didn't freak out or anything. Denise, being the great girlfriend that she was, realized it's important for a man to have some form of wild phase when young. Denise and I talked more about it. She just kept asking if I was sure, if this was really what I needed to be able to commit for life. I, being the boyfriend I am, fully reassured her. I let her know I didn't need a bunch of girls or anything, like one good time with Jessica would be plenty. She teared up a little, realizing how much she has held me back over these years, but I told her not to be hard on herself. I loved her, and she was the best girlfriend a guy could ask for. Then I ordered her favorite meal and dessert. About a week went by when Denise came and told me she had been talking to Jessica and Jessica had been talking to Josh. They had been together a few months longer than Denise and I. I know they were each other's two NDS, from late night drinking game confessions. I guess they had been talking about doing something crazy together before they graduated and life took over. When Jessica told Josh about it, I guess he was kind of confused at first and thought I was talking about trading girlfriends for the night. This got them talking and it met their desire for one crazy night, and they figured since we were all friends with low body counts it would be best from a safety standpoint. I had not been actually thinking about swapping or allowing Denise to do anything. So I was a little taken back when she came to me one Friday night and said she had talked to Jessica about my desires. Then she told me they agreed to swap if we wanted to, that I could be with Jessica if Josh got to be with Denise. I was really excited about this and agreed immediately. At first Denise seemed surprised and like really down for some reason. She asked me, "Are you really okay with me being with Josh? I mean, we don't have to do this. Won't it bother you if I'm with someone else?" I told her that. It was an easy price to pay to be with Jessica. This was what she needed to hear, because her whole demeanor changed afterwards. She seemed excited, saying, "You know what, you're right, you enjoy. Get it the fuck out of your system. I guess I'll just have to make the best of it." "You are so right. This is a great idea. I was feeling pretty good about everything at this point and couldn't wait to make it a reality when I got the best news ever. My roommate Pete was also in his last semester and was doing his student teaching. He had a random Monday off because of staff development or something, so he was going to visit his home for a long weekend, leaving directly Friday after his classes and not coming back until Monday night. This made for the perfect opportunity, but also gave me a great idea that worked because Josh had his own one-bedroom apartment all to himself. As I knew from being with Denise, the first few times you sleep with someone aren't the best. You've got to learn each other and that can take a few times. So I suggested we do like a whole weekend swap. Basically, on Friday after class each girl would just go to the other guy's apartment, stay until they left for class Monday morning. During that time we would have free reign to do whatever we wanted. I told Denise my idea, and after giving me a really rude look, she agreed and said this was my best idea yet. Sometimes it takes her a moment to process. It's kinda cute. She ran my idea by Josh and Jessica, and while she said they were hesitant at first, they agreed. I was on top of the world. This was going to be the best weekend ever. And it was. The only problem was after. Denise wanted to forget it ever happened, and asked that we just move on and focus on our future. Well, I feel like a couple should share everything, so I insisted that she listen, so I could tell her all about my weekend with Jessica. She just kept saying she didn't want to, that it was done. Eventually I convinced her. Partly we had agreed to not let anyone else know. So there was really only one person I could boast to, and that was Denise. I just needed her to be a partner on this. She finally agreed to listen after like a week of me insisting. It was nice to get to share the memories with someone, but then she just started telling me all about her weekend with Josh, which I didn't ask for. It was way too awkward, and I really felt like she was exaggerating everything just to one-up me. We got into a big fight that night, which she never apologized for. I decided to let it go for a while, but I really felt like she lied and I needed to know. I texted Josh asking for the details. He was like, "Are you sure?" I told him I needed to know, and he told me. It was exactly as Denise had said. There was no reason for Josh to lie, so I knew at that point she had betrayed me. Over the next few weeks things were really tense between Denise and I. The biggest issue was her refusal to apologize and take accountability for her actions. That weekend wasn't about her, or Josh, or anyone else. It was about my need to exercise my masculinity before settling down. I had graciously made a few concessions for others in order to make it happen, and I had been taken advantage of. Lesson learned. Finally, I gave Denise an ultimatum. Either accept responsibility and let me have a do-over, on my terms, or we would be done until I was ready to take her back. She told me to go fuck myself. I am no beta loser, so like any real man I cut her off right then and there. I told her if she wanted any chance to patch this up, then she needed to show me she was sorry. She did just the opposite. After we broke up, it seemed like every dude on campus was after her. She ignored all of them except one guy, this tall med student guy. Well, at that point I figured her loss. I had 2 serious relationships after, but in both cases neither could get over their jealousy of my ex Denise. That brings us to today. Denise is finally rid of that other guy, freshly single, and through an old friend and a little social media snooping, I know where she is going to be today. I'm arranging a little run-in. Going to let her know I'm willing to put the past behind us and give us a second chance. I'm expecting it to be a great day, and I'll be sure to update everyone as soon as I can. Update. Hello everyone, I am not Doug. I am his old roommate Pete, 46M. Doug was arrested today. He lost his phone during the scuffle, and I picked it up. As he was being dragged off, he kept ranting for me to update his followers. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about at first, but then I saw the notification from user Gwen Loves ADBL asking for an update. I'm pretty familiar with Reddit, so I got on his account and read his first post. I have to say that is one distorted version of events. So before I update everyone on Doug, I'm going to tell you all what really happened. I was friends with everyone involved. Good friends with both Doug and Josh. I've heard this story from everyone but Denise herself. Jessica, however, heard all of her perspective. It's true that this all started with a conversation about regrets. However, Doug was definitely dumb and ballsy to say he wanted to sleep with his girlfriend's best friend. Back then we were all 22, 23 years old, and Denise was young, naive and in love with Doug. She really thought, with the pressure from Doug, that if he just got it out of his system he would be fine. Then they would get married, have kids, and live happily ever after. She hated the idea of him being with someone else. Although, she found the choice of Jessica more reassuring, as she totally trusted Jess and knew they would tell each other everything. It was still hard for her. She spent weeks trying to show Doug that, and he just couldn't or wouldn't listen. He was just so determined to be with Jess. Josh and Jess really were looking to do something spicy before graduating. I got a lot of the intimate details of this whole disaster from Josh, and some from Jessica. Josh and I are still good friends today and see each other a few times a year. He told me they figured they'd just try and organize a threesome or something with somebody, but when Denise asked Jess if she would be interested in helping Doug get it out of his system, Josh had his idea for the swap. Denise took this to Doug hoping he would just want to end it because she was now also going to be with someone. When he made his statement of it being an easy price to pay, he broke Denise. Only she didn't fall apart. She got angry. She decided if that's what he wanted, well, two can play the game. Everyone but Doug had just planned on picking a night, everyone being at the girls' apartment, and basically the guys would just go to the opposite bedroom, and that would be it. Then Doug suggested the weekend thing. Everyone else was hesitant, but Denise said it would be fine. And at this point Josh and Jess told me they felt they were just along for the ride. It was after that weekend that things got bad. I knew something was up with Doug. He was acting weird, like he had some secret he wanted to tell. I knew it was killing him to not share. Later on I did get the details. I also got the basic details from Josh. I remember in the days that followed it seemed like Doug was holding something over Denise's head. As you read in Doug's first post, he was desperate to tell Denise all the experiences he had during his weekend with Jess. He wanted to brag, and that blew up in his face. See, Jess, while intrigued at the idea of what they were doing, was also pretty pissed at Doug for the way he was treating Denise through all this. When the ladies talked beforehand, Jess had told Denise that Doug wouldn't be getting her best. On the other side, Denise asked if it was okay if she were unhinged during, and Jess told her absolutely. Show Josh a time he won't forget. A TMI warning, as the next part is going to be a little graphic, but I'll clean it up as best as I can. So I know from hearing this from both guys that Doug and Jess did have sex 4 or 5 times over the weekend. She made him use protection, things like oral were just for foreplay, etc. They apparently spent most of the time marathoning shows on DVD. Now from Doug's perspective, this was the greatest weekend ever, until he heard Denise's story and got it verified by Josh. See, Denise basically spent the entire time from arrival until she left completely undressed. They used no protection, and she was down for whatever he wanted. Josh said they marathoned each other most of the weekend. When Doug hears this, he just broke, but he manifested it by being even more of an asshole. The writing was on the wall, but the breakup drug out over another month. He was right though. Soon as Denise was on the market, everyone shot their shot. She only had eyes for one other guy though, and they started dating like 2 months after the breakup. He was a good-looking guy, post-grad student on his way to being an optometrist. Denise and him got married 3 years later. I was there. Had 3 kids together, 17M, 14F, 12F. I wasn't there, lol. Doug ended up getting married 2 times and they both ended in divorce within 5 years. He never got over Denise. It wasn't that these women were jealous, it was Doug's unhealthy obsession with his college girlfriend. That leads us to the horrific circumstances of today. When Doug says she is single, what he means is she is widowed. Denise just lost her husband of 19 years after a long battle with colon cancer. Today was the funeral. That's the place he knew she would be at. I saw everything happen. It was so fast yet seemed like slow motion. Doug came out of nowhere right after Denise's husband was lowered into the ground. He was manic, basically yelling Denise at her. She was obviously surprised and suspicious. He was talking so fast about how they could be together again now that this loser was out of the way. Denise got upset and turned to walk away, but Doug grabbed her arm. She tried to pull away, but he had a grip on her. Some of the other men, Josh included, moved to intervene, but just as quick Denise's son came across with a right hook to the jaw that dropped Doug. He tried to pop back up, but by that point the other men had pounced on him. He became belligerent, ranting expletives and insults at everyone. The cops came and hauled him off. Every witness statement said the same thing. Doug came out of nowhere, attacked Denise, and she was defended by her son. It's a sad end for Doug. I can't excuse any aspect of his behavior today or over the last 20+ years. I'm sure there are a lot of you wondering what she ever saw in him, or how I could to be his roommate. Well, he wasn't always like this. Today, terms like red pill, alpha beta, incel are pretty common, but they aren't anything new. They just have more platforms. Back then it was chat rooms. Those chat rooms lead a pretty decent guy to a path of entitlement towards the woman he loved. When he lost that as a consequence of that entitlement, it only drove him deeper into the rabbit hole, culminating in today's pathetic display. I just hope he gets the help he needs. There are a lot of DMs about what happened to Jess and Josh after the whole swapping thing. Their relationship went on relatively unscathed. They were married about 18 months later. I was a groomsman. Denise was MOH. They have 2 kids that are in their late teens now. Unfortunately, they divorced about 12 years ago. Josh said they just kind of lost their connection. They divorced amicably and co-parented very well. They were able to become good friends after the divorce. Josh has a long-term girlfriend he lives with. Jess got remarried 2-3 years ago. Denise was MOH again. Second story. Really struggling today going over details in my head. Partner not really taking accountability yet. So, my partner of 13 years has had multiple affairs over the past 8 months or so that I only found out about in the last few weeks. These were all purely online with people far away, but she is incredibly avoidant about talking about any of it at all. The only reason I found out about anything in the first place was due to constant red flags and eventually giving in and looking at her DMs. There were 3 APs, and I've numbered them based on when they started, not when I found out about them. AP number 1 was in October, November last year, AP number 2 was November, May, and AP number 3 was January, February or March. I forget when I found out about him honestly. The past few months are a total blur. I'll try give a short version of events, as it has been a lot. Partner begins pushing me away starting around 8 months ago. Spending more and more time on her phone. Ending up spending easily 8 hours on her phone a day. Often way more. I get suspicious due to the constant red flags, secrecy, and constant little lies. In February-ish, I see a guy's name pop up when she was showing me something on her phone, and ask about who it was. The reply is very suspicious. I ask to see their conversation, but it has been deleted. I get her to recover the conversation, and she had been having an EA which started in January, AP number 3. We briefly break up but try reconcile. She is putting no effort in and made out the EA happened because of me not meeting her needs anymore. Her behavior has not changed, still constant red flags. But I am trying my best to be better for her. Around 3 weeks ago I give in and check her laptop. I see that she's still DMing a different guy for hours every day, but it was innocent. I get hurt and stop looking further than confront her. She tells me she'll let me know when they speak in the future. I don't trust this and check her laptop a day or so later, and I see a message sent to someone else months ago saying, but he doesn't know about AP number 1. Nothing would have happened though. I would never actually cheat on him. I confront her with this person's name. She freaks out at me for checking her laptop and doesn't admit to anything. I check her laptop again. I see the past conversation with AP number 1 and my heart sinks. It had not gotten physical due to geographic location, but it was very sexual. And she had tried to meet up with him. I stop looking and confront her. She admits to it but says I now know everything and there's nothing more. And I persuade her to let me look through their chat properly, which took a few days. I decide to check her blocked contacts on the messaging app and open another conversation and learn about AP number 3, which was more recent but back started in November, with him only asking why she'd removed him from her Snapchat 2 days before I saw the message. The day after I found out about the first AP, there's way more details to it all, but I was totally gaslit into thinking I was the problem, and she was telling other people how paranoid and controlling I was being, that I was accusing her of having an affair, etc., which made her friends think I was being abusive. Even though she was having multiple affairs, we just didn't know it at the time. Right now my biggest struggle is that she still won't take full accountability. She gets angry and defensive when I try to talk to her about things or ask questions, when all I want is reassurance. She seems to take me telling her how hurt I am as me trying to make her feel bad, when that's not the case at all. I'm struggling and she is the person who I want support and reassurance from. She is going to therapy to get to the bottom of everything, and she did let me look at her chat logs again for an hour, so I appreciate that she is trying. But it just seems like she's still putting the fact she feels bad for everything way ahead of how bad what she did makes me feel. She has also deleted the app and now lets me look at her phone whenever I ask, which I haven't been doing other than one occasion. Her phone use has also lessened a lot. Here's where it does get sketchy for me though. She's been adding back a lot of the people she spoke to on the other messaging app on Instagram, and she still has some on Snapchat. These aren't the APs and I trust she has no contact with them now. I even confronted the most recent one. It just makes me think she's not actually putting it all behind her fully, and is another reason I don't think she's taking accountability or really putting in the work to fix her mistakes. Anything I have learned myself. She has never offered up any new information. And I realized tonight that some of the things she admitted to were also lies. The extent was deeper with AP number 1. But I don't feel like I can even bring this up with her at the moment without her either making me feel bad or just getting angry with me. I desperately want us to fix our relationship, but she's working against me rather than with me right now. She seems to think my bad days mean we are taking a step back, but it's been less than 4 weeks since I've learned about the extent of things, and since she isn't forthcoming or willing to communicate about things well so far, I do still wonder if I even do know the full extent of things. There could have been people before or after that I don't know about, and I know she wouldn't tell me if there is. I definitely wasn't calmly communicating for the first 2 weeks after finding out how bad things actually were, but I am now. I also know not everyone wants to know all of the details, but for me it is important. I need to know what I'm actually healing from and the full extent of things. I have seen and heard things that I will never forget, but if I hadn't, the uncertainty in my imagination would do far worse. Does anyone have any advice at all on what I can do in this situation? I want her to feel more comfortable talking about everything. And I want her to realize the only way we can move past this is by having uncomfortable conversations that will hurt me initially, but will help us move forward. Update. Reconciliation failed, for now at least, so it's only actually been a month and a few days since I found out about my wife's affairs. We had been working on fixing things, but for me it has ended up being too little too late. There are still small pointless lies, there is still a major lack of transparency, and my boundaries have not been respected at all or taken seriously, and they haven't even been strict. It is about to be both our wedding and relationship anniversaries, and I'm debating just filing for divorce. I'm likely going to disable my social media accounts for the week of our anniversary to avoid people sharing memories to me and getting reminders of what I thought our relationship was. I'm honestly pretty stoic. I didn't want things to end and I didn't want to give up, but she's not doing enough and hasn't been proactive at all. She's doing better than she was, but better than abusive still isn't necessarily good. I read what other people's waywards are doing here, and how other people are actually able to set strict boundaries that their partner actually willingly follows since they desperately want reconciliation to work. But in my case, I have a wife who does not want to make any sacrifices to make us work. It sucks. I didn't want things to end, but I obviously have to do what's best for me. Learning to be myself and starting a new chapter is terrifying, but staying in this relationship where I don't even feel comfortable asking for reassurance, let alone setting rules and boundaries, is also terrifying. I'll likely still lurk, and if anything changes I'll give an update, but for now, I give up. Just to add, things started coming out back in February. It's only been a month since I learned how bad things actually were. But I don't believe I know everything since she's never been forthcoming with any information herself. Would have added this at the top, but the app is being scuffed. Third story. My wife admitted to having a drunken one-night stand last week, and it has turned me into a robot. I, 32M, have been married to my wife Kate, 30F, for 4 years, together for 9. Our relationship has been amazing, loving and supportive. We have good communication, hardly ever argue, and our bedroom life has gone from strength to strength over the years. We discussed cheating in the past and I was always clear that we would be over if it ever happened. Kate went home to visit her family last weekend, which was fairly normal. Before she left on the Friday night, we had a minor argument about keeping the house tidy, so our communication was limited on Saturday. But I knew she was going out to meet some friends at a bar. I trusted her 100%, so didn't think anything of it. Before I fell asleep, I texted her saying that I hope she had a nice night. When I woke up on Sunday morning, I had a missed call from Kate at 4 a.m., so I immediately called her to check if she was okay, but no answer. After a few hours I tried again a few times, but still no answer. Around an hour later I got a message saying she was fine and was driving back soon. Kate got home late afternoon and looked awful. She had clearly been crying, was not wearing any makeup, unusual for her, and looked like a shell of a person. I knew right away something was wrong, but she wouldn't let me hug her and would barely speak. I sat her down on the couch and made her some tea. I gently encouraged her to tell me what was wrong, and she burst into uncontrollable tears for at least 10 minutes while I was trying to comfort her. She then proceeded to tell me, stopping every few words, that she had slept with someone last night after the bar. At that moment, something in my brain broke. I can't describe it any other way. I immediately got up and jumped in my car and drove off. I went to a park and walked around it for about an hour. Kate was calling my phone constantly and I turned it off. When I got home, I grabbed 2 suitcases from the garage and went to our bedroom. I threw some of Kate's clothes and shoes into them and left them by the front door. Kate was lying on the floor in the living room, curled up into a ball sobbing. I called her best friend who lives nearby and told her that Kate needed a place to stay and a ride to her place, and that Kate could explain everything to her later. I told Kate I was leaving for an hour and that her friend was coming to pick her up. She grabbed onto my legs trying to stop me from leaving. When I returned home again, Kate was gone and so were the cases. On Monday, with a clearer head, I answered one of Kate's many calls and told her that I needed her to send me an email with as much details as possible of that night, and if she leaves anything out, there will be no hope of reconciliation. I received this email on Monday night but still haven't opened it. Since then, everyone has been trying to contact me but I have just been working, exercising and sleeping. One of her friends turned up at my house with an attitude demanding an explanation. I told her to speak to Kate and closed the door in her face. I have also been speaking to divorce lawyers, have moved money into separate accounts and blocked Kate and all of her friends on everything. Everything I have done since I found out seems like I have been on autopilot. I don't feel angry, upset or overly emotional. Just numb. Kate posted a note through the door yesterday asking me to meet tomorrow but I'm conflicted. Should I meet her? Will it change anything? Is there any point in trying to reconcile? Is it normal to feel like a robot and how do I snap out of this? Just to add that when I came home the first time, Kate confirmed it was consensual. She was drunk but knew what she was doing.